The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. We'll be starting in about 5 minutes. So we'll just want to get everybody a chance to get signed on. And so we'll be getting going in about 5 minutes. Thanks. Hi, everyone. And thanks for taking the time to join the webinar. Today's webinar is going to be focused on our best practices. What I'm going to basically do is, walk us through the whole flow of how the software is designed, from the sales process to generating a proposal to all the project management, time tracking, scheduling, work orders, all that kind of good stuff. Couple housekeeping rules. We'll answer questions at the end, so save your questions for the ends of the webinar when we're done, and we'll field all the. We'll have a Q&A section to go through all that. So I'll get started. So where I'm on right now is our sales CRM dashboard. And on the sales CRM dashboard, you can see what's in your overall pipeline, what's been added to your pipeline in the last 30 days, what's been won or lost in the last 30 days, what's been won or lost year to date. Down here, you can actually see what's in each individual salesperson's pipeline. And this is actually clickable to go into the details. So if you really want to dig into that, you can do so right from here. But when a new lead comes in, what you're going to want to do, whether it's commercial or not, go to people. And then you'll want to go over to the cog here and go to add person. This will pull up the modal to add the person. So you'll enter all the basics: name, address, phone number. Here's where you can associate the company. So if it's a company that you already have in your database, you can just select it, but you can actually add a new company right here on the fly. And that's how these two get associated. You'll then select who the salesperson is going to be that's in charge of this lead or contact. In the settings of the CRM, which is off to the side here, you can set up your different sources of where your business is coming from. You can create as many of these as you'd like. There is no limitation. That way you can select where the source is, so you can actually run reports by where your business is coming from and see that. You can also create different statuses. Again, you can create as many of these as you'd like. And same thing with tags. These are all filtering features for reporting in the future. In the settings, you can also add custom fields. So any additional information you want you or your team to gather, you can do so right here. What you'll do then is hit save. It'll load that contact into your database. We have a nice search feature. So with the search feature, you can search by name, by company, by address, whatever you want. You can search by that. It narrows down the search for you, and then you can click and go into that client. Here you'll see all the information that you've entered. Over time, you'll have associated records. So over time, you'll be able to see any proposals, any projects, any work orders that have been created, or invoices for this contact. You'll be able to see right here. And I'll cover each one of those areas in detail throughout the webinar. During the sales process, your sales team can create activities for themselves, or you can create activities for them. It doesn't matter. You can create single activities, or in the settings, you can create an activity template. Maybe it's a sales process you want your team to follow. An activity can be anything. It could be a to-do. It could be to do a follow-up email, to set an appointment, whatever you want it to be. You can see what's been completed by what's green, and what hasn't been by what's tan. And then as the activities are completed, you can check them off right here. We also have a sales calendar for the sales team to enter their sales meetings into. And then if a salesperson has a calendar event or an activity due on any given day, they'll get an automated email early in the morning. It's called the daily rundown. And it's basically a list of their agenda for that day. So things don't fall through the cracks. Over here, you can see any associated deals with this person. And a deal in our software is an opportunity. So that's, to make sure, think of it as an opportunity. You can add a deal right here. I'll come back to deals in a second and we'll go through and add one. I just want to finish going through this contact page. Over here is where you'll see all the custom field information that you entered. And then we do have a notes section. So you can add notes right here. And when you do add a note, it stamps the author and the date and time that note was added. To add a deal, just simply go to the deal section here and hit add deal. Now, one of the key things when adding a deal is the naming, because this name is actually going to follow this all the way from a deal to a proposal into a project, hopefully, if you get the deal. So naming is really key because it's for search. So what we do in my own company, integration company, I always do client's last name, if it's a common last name, comma first name, and what it is. So in this case, we're going to do Alan. Let's call it, I'm going to call it webinar Crestron system. And I'm just going to put today's date in to make it unique even more. It already associated the client with it. We're going to we can put in here what we think this value of this deal is. So you haven't done a proposal yet or anything, but you've talked to the client, and based on your initial conversation, you might say, hey, I think this is worth $50,000. You can associate the stage with it. Is it in negotiation, presentation, qualified? You can put in the expected close date. So when you think you're going to close this. So maybe I think I'm going to close it, middle of next month. My potential right now, I'm going to put it at maybe 25%. And then you're going to put in the address. 9 times out of 10, the address is going to be different than what the client address is, or it could be. It could be a new address. I'm going to load that in. I'm going to select who the salesperson is. I'm going to select the source of where it came from. And then I'm going to do the status, as warm. And again, just like the person, you can add custom fields to a deal. So maybe, I want to, know if it's a remodel or new construction. In this case, I'm going to say new construction, and hit save. And it creates the deal for me automatically right here. I can click and go into the deal at any time. If I do need to make edits, like, change the dollar amounts or the expected close date, I can just do so by clicking on it. But now let's say we've met with the client and we're ready to generate a proposal. Right here inside the deal is the create proposal button. So I'm going to click that and it'll pull that information into our proposal generation. Remember how I told you how that name followed? See, so now it automatically named the proposal name the same thing as that deal. If you do want to change that, you can click on it and change it. But the idea is really to keep it simple, name it the way you want to name it from the deal stage so that, again, so it just follows it over through the process. I'm going to select who's creating this proposal, which in this case, it's me. We can create different pricing rules in the proposal piece. An example of a pricing rule might be a customer discount. And then when you select the pricing rule, you can determine if it applies to labor, to equipment, or to both. And it creates the pricing rule. And don't forget, you can create multiple pricing rules if you wish to do so. Another example of a pricing rule might be how you calculate project management or engineering, which maybe are by percentages of the total. So you can select it and it's maybe a percentage of the equipment total. And it creates that pricing rule. And then you can also drag and drop the order these appear on the proposal to the customer. And I'll show it. You'll see when I generate the proposal, they'll end up on the proposal itself for the customer. I'll select the tax rate that's going to apply. Again, you can create as many different payment schedules in the settings. Select the payment schedule that best applies for this proposal. And how the payment schedules work, they're a percentage of the total. And then once the proposal is approved, we can progress invoice off that, and I'll kind of show you how that works in a few minutes. You can select the scope of work that best applies. You can select the contract. So you might have multiple different types of contracts for different types of work you do. Select the one that best applies, and it adds it. Then you go up here to locations. And then you can just grab, you'll have all your locations that you use on a regular basis set up in your database, and then just drag over to the right the ones that apply to this particular proposal. If you have something that's very specific to this proposal that you don't want to add to your database, just hit the plus symbol right here, and you can just add it just to the proposal itself. You can drag and drop the order. These appear on the proposal to the customer, so you can customize it the way you like. Then when you're done, you'll go up here to systems. You can create as many different systems as you'd like. A system is a filtering feature. And then again, just like locations, drag over to the right the ones that apply to the particular proposal. And again, you can drag and drop the order. These appear on the proposal to the customer. When you're done with that, go to the cog, go to build proposal. That'll take you into the proposal builder. And now we can add equipment. And we can add equipment a variety of different ways. We can search our local product database under the search feature. So if we're looking for, say, a Sony and we know it's an XBR, but maybe that's all we know, just type that in. It'll bring back everything that's related to that. You can click on the location to expand it, and then grab it and drag and drop it to the system, which in this case would be televisions. And obviously you can add accessories to a product. So, make sure when you're setting up your product, get all the accessories that you want to associate with it. Some things we do in my own company is, like, for televisions, we'll have our fixed mount the guys like a lot and the arm mount to every television. And then we just, turn off the one we don't want. So, like, if we didn't want this HDMI cable, we just don't add it. And it only adds to the proposal the one you want. But it's a good way as a reminder not to forget those certain things, and just to streamline the processes for your salespeople. Also keep in mind, when you're bringing product over, when you do your initial setup, you'll set up all your labor phases that you do. And again, you can have as many different labor phases as you want, and put your hourly rate to those. So you can add your labor phase and labor hours, and it brings that over for that product also with it. Another way is we're integrated with Portal. So if you're looking for something with Portal, you can just type it in. So maybe you're looking for a Crestron and it's a DM piece. If that's all you know, just type that in. It'll reach out to Portal's database, and it'll bring back everything that's related to that search. You can click on the product. It'll bring over the product image, the manufacturer, the model, the description, and the pricing. And you can hit add to queue, and it adds it back here in the queue. And you can sit here and add as many things to the queue as you'd like. When you're done, just X out of it. And now this product can be added to the proposal. So maybe I want this in the equipment closet under control system. The first time you bring something over from Portal, you'll get this yellow warning. What it's telling you is that there's no labor phase or labor hours associated with this product yet, because they don't do that. And just a piece of advice too. So what I did with my own company when we were building our database, because the database we had was all dirty and didn't have a lot of stuff. It had a lot of stuff that we didn't use anymore. So we built from scratch when we switched over to ProjX, a few years back. And I built the database as I was building my first few proposals, because you can go in here, like I brought this in from Portal. I can go in and add the labor phase and labor hours right here to it. I can add the labor hours, so maybe it's a half hour. I can even go in here and add accessories and stuff. So I can build accessories if I want to from the local database or from Portal again. But when I'm done, I can hit the global button to save it to my product manager. So next time it's all ready to use for the next person. So you can kind of kill two birds with one stone as you're getting set up and build your product database while you're building proposals. That's just a suggestion to you. You don't have to do that, but that's what we did in my own company. And then we can also build packages in the settings. So you can build as many different types of packages as you want. You can have your favorite surround system, drag it to the location and system you want it in, and it brings over everything for you that you built in that. If you didn't need one of these items, like maybe I didn't need this HDMI cable, you can just go to the cog and go to delete, and it'll remove it for this proposal. It only removes it for this proposal. It does not remove it from the master package. And then don't forget, you can drag and drop the order. Product appears on the proposal to the customer. When you're all done, you'll go over to the cog here and you'll go to generate proposal. And here's where you can kind of set up, how you want your proposal to look. So first off, you can filter it by category, by location, by manufacturer, by system. I always like location. We have some advanced options. Don't forget these. There's a lot of different advanced options. Like you can decide if you want to display product images or not, if you want to show line item pricing or not. Do you want to break labor out by phase? Whatever you want to do, you can sit there and turn different things on and off and view what it looks like till you get what you want. When you go over to the systems here, so this is another filtering feature. So what systems are designed for is, let's say, for instance, you just wanted to build a proposal with just the items under control system. You could turn off audio, video, and televisions, or any kind of combination of these to create your proposal, or just keep them all checked. Here's where you'll create your color scheme for the proposal to match your brand. And you can create as many different color schemes as you'd like to. So there is no limitation on that. You can upload as many cover images as you want and then select the one that best applies. And then you can either download a printable version, or this is actually great just for previewing your proposal, and it does not create revisions when you have it on view only. But if you do want to use our email feature when you're ready to send it, you can email a link to the customer. They click on the link. It opens the proposal for them. Has your color scheme you selected, all the client information, the cover image, your company logo and information, has the scope of work. Here we decided to break everything out by location with product images and line item pricing. So we have all that. We broke labor out by phase, which again, you don't have to. I mean, it could be all one lump number. Here are those pricing rules we created. Here's the total of the proposal. Here's the payment schedule we selected, and it created, it did all the math for us. And here's the contract that we created. And then the client down here has two options. They can request revisions, where a box pops up and they can go through and request changes that they want done. Or if everything looks good, they can do an electronic signature and hit approved. You'll get notified. But then also inside the proposal here, under revisions, it gives you the date and time it was approved right here. And then you can actually hit this cog and lock it in and approve it yourself too if you want to. But from here, we're going to, well, actually, I'm going to go and approve that too. When I do approve that, so you have an option to delete revisions or keep them. I always recommend keeping them. And I'm going to mark it approved. And then you can see how this progress invoice tab pops up for progress invoicing. If you click on it and you hit generate invoice, you can now generate invoices from the payment schedule. So for the deposit, for the equipment delivery, and for final. And when you create the progress invoice, it just creates two line items, the percentage of the equipment and the percentage of labor. Your itemized contract with the client is this proposal. They don't need an itemized invoice for that. But now that this proposal was approved, we want to create a project. So when I go over to the cog here, I'm going to go to create project, and it pulls all the client information over. Again, here's that title. So now the project name is going to be this. Again, if you want to edit this, you can, but this is, again, why naming all the way from the deal side of things all the way through is so important. If everything looks good, you're going to select who your project manager is. If you click on the More button right here, you can select your status. Like, is it something that's happening this week? Is it something that's going on next week? Is it in progress? Is it delayed? And you can custom name these statuses in the settings to what you want. You can also create categories. Categories is a filtering feature. You can create as many different categories as you'd like. You could, a category could be anything. It could be a builder you work with, developments you're working on, businesses you work with, whatever you wish it to be, or you don't even have to use it if you don't want to. And then you're going to hit OK. It's then going to go over here, and you can create a color scheme if you like to color code things. In the settings, you can create different templates of what gets checked for your checklists and forms and trades. You can set these up for different types of projects. I'm going to go through it manually so I can show you everything. So the next section is your time tracking. If there was no proposal involved, you would select individually what labor phases you want to associate for time tracking with this project, and you can put in budgets for them. But when you do have a proposal involved, you're going to check this box right here. And because we're going to pull over the labor phases and the labor hours from the proposal in a second. Right here, you can select any trades that are associated with this project. Over here are your checklists, so you can select the checklists you want to apply to this project. And then you can do your forms too. So here are your custom forms that you built. And then down below are some pre-populated forms that came with the software that you can add. And again, you can add as many as you'd like. When you're done, you'll go up here and just click the X. It's then going to ask you to push all the proposal over. And so I'm going to hit the check all button and check everything. So I want to push everything over. I'm going to hit next. And here it's showing all the labor phases and labor hours that are going to get pushed over. You can, if you're doing a change order, you can add to the existing labor that's already going to be in the project or overwrite it. You get a choice. I would recommend adding to the existing. But then we're going to save it. And it created the project for us. So now we're on the project details page. And again, I can't stress enough, think of a project as a location, not a client. Just there's a client associated with the project, but as you know, in our industry, a client could have multiple projects going on. So always think of a project as a location and a client's associated with it. Like I mentioned, it pushed the proposal over by location, but without pricing. So the technicians can see the overall scope of work, but don't see any pricing associated with that. It created all the time tracking phases, so we can actually track time against what was proposed versus actual as we get into that. And I'll show you, we'll go through time tracking in a little bit. Over here, you would see all the work orders that have ever been created. And you can create a work order right from this page if you want to by hitting the plus symbol. And it auto-fills everything in because we know what project and everything that we're on. So what we're going to do is give a work order a title. So same thing again for search reasons. Come up with a good naming scheme that works for your company. You can auto-generate a number if you hit the generate title if you'd like. Or, again, what we do in my company, we do it by last name first, and, give a very unique title to it. I'm going to select what type of work order this is. In this case, it's going to be a project work order because we have two types of work orders. We have project work orders and service work orders. Project work orders are the work orders created during the build of the project. Service work orders are the service calls after the fact. I'm going to select the status. I always recommend what we do in my own company. We always do not scheduled. So it shows up off to the left of the calendar, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. We're going to select if it's billable or not. So it's a project work order, so there's a proposal involved. So really it's not billable because you're billing from that payment schedule. Billable would fall under a service work order where it's for a service call. And then I can hit create work order, and it generates the work order for me. And I'm going to come through and go through work orders in detail with you in a second. I just want to finish going through the client details page so you can see everything. And what I'm going to do also is I'm going to actually go into a different project that actually has data just so we can see things. So like over time, this is what the work order section would look like. You'd have all these work orders, and then you can filter them by your project work orders and your service work orders. This is what your time tracking would look like once you start time tracking. And if a phase is going over budget, it'll turn red, and you can click and actually go into the details of this and see the details. We have custom checklists. So here's those checklists that you selected. And now when you click on them and expand them, you can see what's been completed and what hasn't been. And as the guys finished things, they can check things off, and it stamps who checked it off and when for accountability, and updates the percentage of completion. We have discussions. So discussions are really useful. We use these a lot in my own company. This is how we communicate about a project amongst each other instead of a bunch of random emails or text messages. Just hit the plus symbol. You'll give it a title. You'll describe it, and then you'll select who needs to partake in the discussion. They'll all get a notification as long as the notification section's on, and I'm going to go through notifications towards the end, that a new discussion was created with a link to the discussion. They can click on the link and go into the discussion and reply to that discussion, and it creates a nice thread of a conversation and stamps who replied and when, so there's accountability. Over here, you can see you can create one-off tasks. So the majority of your tasks will be done inside of work orders that I'll go through with you in a couple minutes. But there's always a need for a one-off task. A one-off task example would be to create a task for the office manager to invoice for the deposit. When you create a task, you'll give it a title, you'll assign it, you'll describe it, you'll give it a due date. Again, as long as their notifications are turned on, they'll receive a notification that a new task was created. And then also, you can set up in your notification section that anytime a status changes, you can be notified that the status changed. Over here is the cloud storage, so you can create as many different folders as you'd like and upload whatever you want. Floor plans, system programs, pre-wire photos, whatever you'd like to upload, you can upload right here. So you can always reference that, and everything's right where it belongs inside the project. Over here, you can see all the invoices that have ever been created for this project. And like I mentioned, you can create those progress invoices off the proposal. And then you can also create service invoices for service calls from a work order that I'll cover in a couple minutes. We're tied to Google Maps, so you can see where the project is. We have a notes section, so you can add notes. And then as the project gets older and things need to go in for repair, you can create service repair tickets by clicking the plus symbol right here. And then you have a log of all the product that's ever gone in for repair for this particular project. Then we have our custom forms. If you go up to the left-hand corner up here under forms, these will be the custom forms you associated with this project. So you could have a network form that houses all the client's network information, their SSID, the different access points. Here's the system design form that when you click on the processor, you can see what's in the different COM ports, the relays, how the audio distribution is laid out, how the video distribution is laid out. whatever you like. You create checklists under manage checklists over here and forms under custom forms. And you can create as many of each of those as you'd like. There is no limitation. I'm going to go into work orders now. So we have a nice work order dashboard right here that you can filter the work orders by what's you can create a work order for any project right here, and for any employee right from this one page. So this will make your project manager's life a lot easier because they can just manage all the work orders right from here. And then they can filter them by what's not scheduled, what's in progress, what's been completed, what's been invoiced, what's been canceled, what's been archived. We also have a nice search feature here. So if you're looking for one, you can just start typing it in and it pulls it up for you. Here's the one that we started. If I go into it, we can see what type it is. Remember, we set that up when we created it. Here's the title. I can put hours to it because this is where the guys can clock in to a work order. When the guys hit the clock in button, it knows what project and work order they're on. So they don't have to mess with any of that. All they have to do is grab the phase they're working on and hit start time. And now they're tracking time against the project, the work order, and the phase. And they have a live running clock right here. If we had people scheduled for this, they would show up here and when. And you can actually schedule from here if you want to. I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to show you where to. I like to schedule from the calendar in a couple minutes. But now we can add tasks to this work order, and we can add as many tasks as we'd like, and a variety of different ways we can do that. So if you go in this middle section under line items and go to the plus symbol here and click on the plus symbol, if there was a proposal involved, you're going to go to proposal item, and then you're going to search for your proposal, where you can search for it. And then, select the proposal that's yours. And then it brings it up by location. You can check the box next to the items you want to add to the work order and hit add to work order. And what it does, it brings over the location so the technicians know where the work needs to be done, the product, the quantity, and the labor phase and labor hours that were associated with that. So that's one option. Another option, if this was like a service work order, and maybe you wanted to bring something in from your product database, you can search your product database and select the product and hit OK. And that brings in the product along with the labor phase and labor hours associated with it. Another option is you can bring in one of your custom checklists from your checklist library. Or if you just want to type things in, just go to item and you can type in whatever you want. And then you can select the phase that applies if you wish to do so. And then you could even put in how long you think this task should take your technicians and add that. And now that task was added to the work order. Another nice feature we have in our work orders is you can add notes by line item. So if there's special instructions, or if the technicians are having an issue, they can add a note by a line item, and it shows you that there's a note added to that line item. Then if the guys were having an issue, they could take it one step further and take a photo of that, because you can upload attachments. So I can upload a photo if I want to, and it shows that there's an attachment to that line item, and I can download that attachment right here. The guys can check the box off next to the items as they finish. And just like the other checklists, it does stamp who checked it off and when for accountability. So if it wasn't done, you know who to go talk to. If this was a service work order and something needed to go in for repair, you could create a service repair ticket right here. Just hit the plus symbol. You can put in the RMA number, the tracking number, the date you're shipping it out, and then you can set a reminder for one of these time frames that if you don't get it back, it'll send you a notification to follow up with that manufacturer so things don't fall through the cracks. To clock out of the work order, just simply hit clock out and hit stop time. and that'll clock you out of the work order. Um, and then also, don't forget, we can get electronic signatures on work orders. So if you want your guys getting the site soups to sign off or clients to sign off, you can do so. But if this was and it really comes in handy if it was a service work order that the work was completed. And then say it was a service work order and they want to you want them to create an invoice so they can collect for payment right then and there. So right here in the invoice, in the work order, there's an invoice section. All they do is hit that plus symbol right here, and it'll pull all that client information over into our invoice section. It has your company logo and information for branding, but then there's a little clock right here for the technicians. They just click that little clock. It'll show all the unbilled time for that work order. They just have to check the box and hit OK, and it adds that labor into the invoice. And it knows for final labor, you charge $85 an hour, and it did all the math for them, so they don't even have to calculate it. If they do need to make any edits, though, they can click and make edits right on the quantity if they need to do so. Then whatever product they used, they can add that to the invoice a variety of different ways. If they hit the plus symbol right here, first option, they could select item and just manually type something in. And you can actually manually type in labor too if you didn't want to use that clock I showed you. You can bring product in from the product database or from portal. So if you're doing the product database, you can search your product database, select the product, and put in the quantity. It brings over the pricing and everything, so the guys don't have to know what the pricing is. But it also gives this option. Do you want to add the labor that's associated with this product? Or are you billing for actual? In this case, we're billing for actual, so I'm just going to uncheck it so it doesn't, and it just brings over the product. But you have that option. And you can add as many products to the invoice as necessary. When you're done, you'll go down here and go to select the tax rate. And then again, you can get electronic signatures on invoices. They can collect payment however they wish to collect payment, mark it paid. They can email a copy of that paid invoice to the customer right here. And then we're integrated with QuickBooks and Xero. And they can push the invoice over. You can sync the invoice over in your QuickBooks or Xero for accounting to receive the payment. And it brings it in to the invoice section and you're all set to go. Going into scheduling, I'm going to go into the calendar. And you can see on your calendar, you can see all your employees. You can click on any one of those guys and see what their utilization is for the week. And like I mentioned before, you can see all the unscheduled service work orders and all the unscheduled project work orders off to the left so they don't fall through the cracks. That's why I was mentioning earlier, what my guys do is they always, when they create a work order, they put the status as not scheduled to start with, and they do the scheduling from here once they can see what the calendar looks like. You can filter the calendar by month, by week, by day, or by list. And then you can actually even filter it further. Like if you have a dedicated service department, like we do in my company, and just want to see the service calendar, you can just click on service and it'll filter out and just show you the service calendar and the unscheduled service work orders. And you can do the same thing for production. So you can kind of keep those filtered so you don't have to look at everything. And then to schedule, like here's that work order that we just created. Here it is. I'm going to schedule it. I'm just going to drag and drop it to the day and time I want to schedule it. It loads that day and time in there automatically. If I want to do a color code, I can do so. I can schedule individuals, or I can create teams and schedule teams. And if I want to do it across multiple day events, I can click the all day and just change the date and do it across multiple days. But when I'm done, I just X out of it. It'll load that event into the calendar for me. Once it's done loading that event into the calendar, you can go in. You don't even have to go into it to edit it. You can drag and drop it longer, and you can drag and drop it to different days, and it updates automatically. And then we do have some more advanced filtering under the filter by, where you can filter by employees, projects, and date also. So don't forget that. And then the technicians also have their my schedule. so they can see just their calendar and not anything else. Then going into time tracking, so we covered time tracking with a work order, but as you very well know, there's not always a work order involved. So you can just go and search for your project and select it and select the phase you're working on and hit start time. And now you're tracking time against the project and the phase. And then don't forget, we have this currently clocked in view where you can see a list of all your employees, the project they're on, the phase they're on, the date and time they clocked in, and a live running clock right here. And if you do need to clock them out, you can do so right here. And it'll clock them out automatically for that. Going into service, you can filter your service projects by what are in and out of warranty. So you can see what's in warranty and out of warranty. Also in projects, remember those statuses we had? Oops, I'm sorry, I meant to hit projects. That you named, they're up here. So you can filter by those. Like if you want to see all the projects that are going on this week, you can click on that. What are happening next week, or whatever you name these statuses. Don't forget you can search that. And this is where you can actually even filter them down by your category and filter your category down. Really nice feature to have. When you're setting up your employees, we give you a lot of different options of what they do and don't have access to. So to set up the security settings, you just go in the employee and go to security settings and determine what they do and don't have access to. And then don't forget, all the we have a huge notification system. So you have to go in each individual employee to set up their notifications or have them do it, whichever you prefer, because the software comes with all notifications off. So nothing's turned on. So you have to go turn on what you want. So you just go search by the section. It'll show you all the notifications available for that section, and then you can decide whether you want no notification, software only, email only, or both. And then you can actually put a separate email address in than what your login is. So if you want to do email to SMS and get text messages instead, you can do so. And we give you a quick reference guide of the major carriers of what it would be. Like for Verizon, it's the phone number at vtex.com. And then we have a very large reporting section. So if you go to custom reporting and go to the report builder, just like notifications, you can build a report for any section of the software. Select the section you want to build a report for. Then the next step is it'll show you all the fields available for that report for that section. Click on the fields that you want in the report. You can click on whichever ones you want. And then down below are all the filters. So depending on what kind of report you're trying to build, apply the filters accordingly. And then just get report. And it generates the report for you. The report's exportable to CSV or Excel up here, and even PDF. And then you can also save it to your saved reports, so you don't have to rebuild it all the time. And then you can do the same thing for charts. We have a lot of different types of charts you can build and apply the filters and hit draw chart, and it draws it for you. And again, you can save that to your favorites. So that's pretty much the workflow of how the software was developed, and it matches our industry of how our workflow works, from sales to proposals to projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up to questions, and Jason, my senior developer, is going to help field those. So if you guys want to ask any questions, Jason, if you can go through that.
Sure. So we have the first one. Jay was asking, do we populate the product database, or would they do that? So you can send us a CSV. We'll send you the format when you sign up, and we can import those products for you. Or as Doug showed, as you're building your proposals, you can go through portal and import products. You can also add products on your own one-off as well. So it can kind of go both ways.
Yeah. So and again, to make, we can do that mass import for you, but also it is handy just doing it as you're building the proposal too, because you're just getting the product that you use on a regular basis then.
All right, the next question is, with the proposals, how specific can you get for each section as far as wording? And I believe that would be like in the location descriptions is where you can add kind of specific wording for a location. It is limited to about 255 characters. It's not meant to contain like a whole scope of work for that section.
Yes, so under locations, you can put in a description, but this is going to be, across the board. It's not going to be proposal specific. That's what the scope of work is. So you can create multiple different types of scopes of work, and then select the scope of work that best applies for the proposal. And then when you bring it in, keep the scopes of work very generic, and then but it's the foundation of maybe your systems. And then the salespeople can go in and, tweak the template to that proposal when they're in that actual proposal.
And then the same guy wanted to know, what kind of hand-holding do we do for onboarding of the system?
So what's included in the price is we can do personal one-on-one webinars with you and your team for training. We have a live chat on our website. We have support at ProjX360.com. And we also do 2 webinars a week on different sections of the software. And then if you click on support here inside the software, that'll take you to our library of videos where we have videos for every section of the software.
All right, and then Josh was wondering how and where are proposal revisions kept?
So where proposal revisions are kept, so we go into a proposal, clear out that search. We go into the one we just created. There's a revision section right here. So click on the revision tab, and every revision will be listed here. But keep in mind, revisions are different than change orders. So change orders are child proposals of the parent proposal. And to create a change order, you'll simply go into the proposal itself, the original, after it's approved, I'm sorry. Go into the product that you want to change. So let's say this 75-inch TV is going down to a 65. You'll go over to the cog right here and go to the little toolbox to create change order. If there were other change orders already existing, they'd be listed right here, but in this case they're not. So I'm going to hit the plus symbol to create new. We give it a generic title, which is basically just CO for change order and the date, along with the main title. You can edit this to whatever you want. I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to ask you, do you want to open the change order that I just created, or do you want to return to the proposal to add more product from the main proposal to the change order? In this case, I'm going to open the change order, and I'm going to go to as you can see, the title changed. So now we're in the change order, not the parent proposal. It's just like the regular proposal builder. Go to the proposal builder. I'm going to go to that family room and under televisions, and I'm going to take that 75 and change that quantity to a negative because we're deleting it. And then I'm going to go find my 65, and I'm going to bring that over. And if I want to add accessories, I can. In this case, I'm not gonna. And I can continue to add as much product to this as I want. When I'm done, I'll just go, just like with a regular proposal, go to generate proposal. I have all the same filters, just like that. And then that generated my change order. And then change orders will be listed. When I go back into this, go back to the parent proposal under change orders. Here's all the change orders that'll be listed that are associated with that.
And then one other thing on revisions, revisions are when you create a revision, when you generate an email link, or if you just specifically want to create a revision, that is a snapshot of the proposal at that time. As you make changes in the builder, those are not reflected into the revisions. The revisions are essentially the versions that you've sent to clients, things like that. All right, the next question is, how do you handle a service work order? So essentially, somebody calls in for service. They haven't been a customer for a long time. They're not may not be in the software, right?
Yeah, so what that would on the legacy clients, what you're going to do, if they're not already in the system, you're going to go to projects first and go to the cog here and go new project. And again, you're going to titling that project name, follow the same structure. You can add a client right here, add the client information, all that kind of good stuff. It creates the project for you. Then inside the project is one option. Inside the project, you can create work orders right from here, or you can do it from the project work order dashboard. And then you would just categorize them as service, and they'd be considered service work orders against that project. So once you create the project, you can create as many service work orders as you want against it. So again, think of a project as a location, not a client. There's a client associated with it. So this project could have multiple service work orders over its history.
I think somebody asked, for small jobs, you have to have a work order and proposal.
Well, you don't have to have a proposal ever. You don't have to create work orders. You do need to create a project so you can track time and everything against that project, but you don't have to create work orders. If you just want to schedule people, you can go to scheduling after you create the project and go to, let's just stay on service, for instance, go to the service tab, and you can just hit the plus symbol up here to create the event.
All right. And then somebody asked, where do the forms live? Do they live with the project or the client?
The custom forms?
Yeah.
So the custom forms live in the project, not the client, because again, a client could have multiple projects go on. The forms the forms you're building should be related to project items. So when I go into a project and go to custom forms, like we have a network form that would house all that client's network information for that project, how that system is laid out and designed. So they live inside the project.
And they had a second half to that question, which I'll address, which is it comes down to the enhancement. We do have an enhancement scheduled, hopefully in 2019, where we'll be adding a parent-child relationship to projects, so that in your custom forms, if you have like the network information, you can have a master, a parent project with multiple sub-projects underneath it that would share that form, so that you don't have to do multiple entry as you create multiple projects that may contain the same information. So that is a planned enhancement we have. And it looks like the last question is, are we going to have this as a recorded version somewhere?
Yeah, I recorded it, so we'll probably get it up tomorrow. So it might be before tomorrow we do it. And where that will be is on our website, which is projects, ProjX360.com. You go to our support and go to Learning Center, and you can see webinar series, and it'll be in here.
It doesn't look like there's any more questions at this time.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their busy schedule to join the webinar. And I'll be doing these kind of once a month. We do have more section specific. We have 2 of those a month, every Tuesday and Thursday, that Amy does. And if any questions, you can always email support@projects360.com. And thank you, everybody. Have a great day.